Welcome to an extraordinary journey through time. Over the next 2 hours, we will witness the complete story of our planet Earth. From its violent birth in cosmic dust to the vibrant, life-sustaining world we know today. 4.5 billion years ago, gravity began pulling together the materials that would become our home. What followed was an epic tale of transformation, unlike any other story in the known universe. From the formation of the first oceans to the rise of humanity. From microscopic bacteria to towering dinosaurs. This is the complete timeline of Earth. Prepare to witness 4.5 billion years of history unfold before your eyes. Our journey through deep time begins now. Welcome to an extraordinary journey through time. Over the next 2 hours, we will witness the complete story of our planet Earth. From its violent birth in cosmic dust to the vibrant, life-sustaining world we know today. 4.5 billion years ago, gravity began pulling together the materials that would become our home. What followed was an epic tale of transformation, unlike any other story in the known universe. From the formation of the first oceans to the rise of humanity. From microscopic bacteria to towering dinosaurs. This is the complete timeline of Earth. Prepare to witness 4.5 billion years of history unfold before your eyes. Sit back and space out, because our journey through deep time begins now. We begin our journeys in the vast emptiness of space, in a cloud of gas and dust drifting silently through the cosmos. This is the solar nebula, a stellar nursery where gravity works its slow magic. For millions of years, particles drift and occasionally collide, sticking together in an ancient cosmic dance. The center of this swirling disk grows denser and hotter as more material falls inward. Pressure builds beyond imagination until nuclear fusion ignites. Our sun blazes to life, flooding the surrounding space with heat and light, forever changing the chemistry and physics of everything around it. In the cooler region surrounding our newborn star, a different process unfolds. Rocky particles begin their own gravitational ballet, colliding and sticking together. Dust grains become pebbles, pebbles become boulders, and boulders become mountain-sized chunks of rock and metal hurtling through space at incredible speeds. We begin our journey in the vast emptiness of space, in a cloud of gas and dust drifting silently through the cosmos. This is the solar nebula, a stellar nursery where gravity works its slow magic. For millions of years, particles drift and occasionally collide, sticking together in an ancient cosmic dance. The center of this swirling disk grows denser and hotter as more material falls inward. Pressure builds beyond imagination until nuclear fusion ignites. Our sun blazes to life, flooding the surrounding space with heat and light, forever changing the chemistry and physics of everything around it. In the cooler regions surrounding our newborn star, a different process unfolds. Rocky particles begin their own gravitational ballet, colliding and sticking together. Dust grains become pebbles, pebbles become boulders, and boulders become mountain-sized chunks of rock and metal hurtling through space at incredible speeds. These planetesimals, as scientists call them, continue their violent courtship for millions of years. Each collision either destroys both objects or creates something larger. Gradually, a few winners emerge from this cosmic demolition derby. Objects large enough that their own gravity begins pulling in additional material. Our young Earth emerges from this process as a molten ball of rock. Its surface temperature exceeds 2,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt copper. The atmosphere, such as it is, consists mainly of hydrogen and helium captured from the solar nebula, along with steam and toxic gases belched from countless volcanoes. But Earth's violent birth is far from over. The inner solar system remains cluttered with debris from the planet-forming process. Asteroids and comets continue to rain down on our world's surface in a bombardment so intense that the entire planet remains molten. Any water that reaches the surface immediately boils away into the superheated atmosphere. Among these impactors comes one that will change everything. A Mars-sized object that astronomers call Theia approaches Earth on a collision course. The impact occurs at a glancing angle, vaporizing both objects and creating a ring of molten debris around Earth. Over thousands of years, this ring of material slowly coalesces under its own gravity, forming our moon, a companion that will stabilize Earth's rotation and create the tides that may have been crucial for life's eventual emergence. The aftermath of the giant impact leaves Earth more molten than ever. For the first 500 million years of its existence, our planet resembles a vision of hell more than the blue marble we know today. Volcanic eruptions constantly reshape the surface, while meteor impacts continue to add energy and new material. The atmosphere remains poisonous and dense, trapping heat like an extreme greenhouse effect. But even in this hellish environment, change is constant. As the bombardment gradually decreases, Earth's surface slowly begins to cool. Water vapor in the atmosphere condenses and falls as rain. But for millions of years, this rain boils away the moment it touches the superheated surface. The cycle continues endlessly: evaporation, condensation, and immediate re-evaporation. Finally, after eons of this process, the surface cools just enough for the first drops of rain to survive contact with solid ground. Puddles form in the lowest areas, only to evaporate hours or days later. But each cooling cycle allows the next rainfall to last a little longer. Gradually, these temporary pools become permanent. Small lakes form in the basins between volcanic mountains. As cooling continues, these lakes merge and expand. The first oceans take shape: hot, shallow, and rich with dissolved minerals from the constant volcanic activity. Earth has taken its first crucial step toward becoming a world that could support life. The early oceans are nothing like the blue waters we know today. They are hot enough to kill most modern life forms, highly acidic from dissolved volcanic gases, and rich in iron and other metals. Above them, the atmosphere remains hostile, thick with methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide, but containing virtually no oxygen. Yet in these harsh conditions, the stage is set for the most important development in our planet's history: the emergence of life itself. As we move forward through time, we find ourselves exploring Earth's first stable oceans. These ancient seas are unlike anything in today's world: hot, shallow, and constantly stirred by volcanic activity. The water carries dissolved minerals in concentrations that would be toxic to most modern life, while steam rises constantly from the surface into the thick, hostile atmosphere above. The seafloor itself is a landscape of constant change. Underwater volcanoes erupt regularly, creating towering mountains and deep valleys. Hot springs bubble up through the ocean floor, carrying with them a rich soup of chemicals: hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and countless other compounds that will prove crucial to what happens next. In this alien environment, something extraordinary begins to occur. Simple organic molecules, formed by the interaction of lightning, volcanic heat, and chemical reactions, begin organizing themselves into increasingly complex structures. Carbon atoms link with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur in patterns that have never existed before. These molecular experiments continue for millions of years. Most combinations prove unstable and quickly break apart. But occasionally, a structure emerges that can maintain itself, even reproduce. These are the first tentative steps across the threshold that separates chemistry from biology. The earliest life forms are almost inconceivably simple by modern standards. They lack nuclei, organelles, or any of the complex internal machinery that modern cells take for granted. They are little more than bags of chemicals surrounded by primitive membranes, but they possess the fundamental characteristic that defines life. They can make copies of themselves. These pioneering organisms thrive in conditions that would instantly kill almost all modern life. They extract energy from chemical reactions involving sulfur compounds, iron, and other minerals dissolved in the ancient oceans. They require no oxygen. Fortunate, since Earth's atmosphere contains virtually none. For hundreds of millions of years, these simple microbes multiply and spread throughout Earth's oceans. They evolve slowly, developing slightly more efficient ways to extract energy from their harsh environment. Some learn to process different chemicals, while others develop primitive ways to move through the water. Then comes an innovation that will transform our planet forever. Some of these ancient microbes stumble upon a new way to extract energy, not from chemicals, but directly from sunlight itself. These early cyanobacteria develop the complex molecular machinery needed for photosynthesis, using solar energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into organic compounds. This might seem like a minor development, but it comes with a revolutionary side effect. As a waste product of photosynthesis, these bacteria release oxygen, a gas that has been almost entirely absent from Earth's atmosphere since the planet's formation. At first, this oxygen production has little visible effect. The ancient oceans and atmosphere are filled with chemicals that readily react with oxygen, absorbing it as quickly as it's produced. Iron dissolved in the seawater immediately rusts when it encounters oxygen, creating layers of red and black sediment that settle to the ocean floor. These banded iron formations, still visible in ancient rocks today, represent one of Earth's first major chemical transformations. The cyanobacteria continue their work, building impressive structures called stromatolites in shallow coastal waters. These living reefs, constructed layer by layer over thousands of years, become some of Earth's first complex ecosystems. Countless generations of bacteria live, die, and build upon their predecessors' remains, creating mounds that can reach several meters in height. As millions of years pass, the oxygen-producing bacteria spread to every suitable habitat on Earth. They pump more and more oxygen into the oceans and atmosphere, but for a long time, it continues to be absorbed by iron and other reactive chemicals. The planet seems locked in a chemical stalemate, but this balance cannot hold forever. Slowly, inexorably, the chemical sinks that absorb oxygen become saturated. Iron in the oceans becomes increasingly oxidized and precipitates out of the water. The atmosphere's capacity to absorb oxygen through chemical reactions approaches its limit. Then comes the tipping point. For the first time in Earth's 4 billion-year history, free oxygen begins accumulating in the atmosphere. This great oxidation event unfolds over millions of years, but its effects are devastating for existing life. Oxygen, which we now consider essential for life, is actually highly reactive and toxic to organisms that haven't evolved to handle it. The result is Earth's first mass extinction. Most of the anaerobic bacteria that have dominated the planet for over 1 billion years cannot survive in an oxygen-rich environment. Entire ecosystems collapse as the very air becomes poisonous to the organisms that created it. But from this crisis emerges unprecedented opportunity. Oxygen, despite its toxicity, is also an incredibly efficient source of energy. Some organisms evolve not just to tolerate oxygen, but to harness its power through cellular respiration. These survivors can extract far more energy from their food than their anaerobic ancestors ever could. The stage is now set for more complex forms of life, powered by the oxygen that fills Earth's atmosphere and dissolves in its seas. Moving further through time, we enter a world transformed by oxygen. Earth's atmosphere now contains significant amounts of this reactive gas, creating both challenges and opportunities for life. The survivors of the Great Oxidation Event have adapted to use oxygen as a powerful energy source, but they remain simple, single-celled organisms. For hundreds of millions of years, life experiments with new biochemical pathways and cellular structures. The abundance of oxygen allows for more energetic metabolisms, but it also creates new problems. Oxygen can damage cellular components through oxidation, forcing organisms to develop protective mechanisms and repair systems. During this period of relative stability, some cells begin developing more sophisticated internal structures. They create specialized compartments for different cellular functions, including structures specifically designed to safely harness oxygen's energy. These innovations require enormous amounts of energy and complex coordination between cellular components. Then comes one of the most important developments in the history of life. Some cells begin engulfing other cells, but instead of digesting them, they form mutually beneficial partnerships. The larger cell provides protection and nutrients, while the smaller cell contributes specialized functions, particularly energy production. This process, called endosymbiosis, creates the first eukaryotic cells, cells with nuclei and other internal structures called organelles. The mitochondria that power our own cells today are descendants of ancient bacteria that entered into this partnership billions of years ago. Similarly, the chloroplasts that enable plant photosynthesis originated as free-living cyanobacteria that took up residence inside other cells. These new eukaryotic cells are far more sophisticated than their predecessors. They can process energy more efficiently, maintain more complex internal structures, and coordinate multiple specialized functions simultaneously. They also develop a revolutionary innovation, sexual reproduction, which dramatically accelerates the pace of evolution by creating new genetic combinations. But Earth itself has more dramatic changes in store. The planet's climate system, still adjusting to the presence of oxygen and the ongoing activity of living organisms, enters a period of extreme instability. Ice begins forming at the poles, but unlike the relatively modest ice ages of more recent times, this cooling continues until glaciers cover almost the entire planet's surface. During these snowball Earth events, ice extends from the poles to the equator, reflecting so much sunlight that temperatures plummet even further. The oceans freeze to depths of kilometers, and only a few areas of open water remain near volcanic activity or geothermal vents. Life retreats to these refuges and the thin layer of liquid water that may have existed beneath the ice. These extreme conditions persist for millions of years at a time, pushing life to its absolute limits. Only the most adaptable organisms survive, and the stress of these conditions drives rapid evolutionary innovation. Cells develop better ways to survive freezing, starvation, and extreme isolation. When the ice finally retreats, possibly due to volcanic activity pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, life emerges from its refuges with new capabilities and greater complexity. The survivors have been tested by some of the harshest conditions our planet has ever experienced, and they are ready for the next phase of evolution. As Earth emerges from the last snowball Earth event, something remarkable appears in the fossil record for the first time: large, complex, multicellular organisms. These Ediacaran creatures are unlike anything that came before or since, with body plans that seem almost alien to modern eyes. Some resemble quilted mattresses, others look like fern fronds or abstract sculptures. Many reach impressive sizes, some over a meter in length, making them the first truly large life forms on Earth. They live on the sea floor, possibly filtering nutrients from the water or harboring photosynthetic partners in their tissues. These organisms represent life's first serious experiment with multicellularity. Individual cells coordinate their activities to create larger, more complex structures that can access new resources and better survive environmental challenges. Some develop primitive tissues and organ systems, laying the groundwork for the even more complex animals that will follow. Sexual reproduction becomes increasingly sophisticated during this time, creating the genetic diversity that makes rapid adaptation possible. This process allows favorable mutations to spread quickly through populations while combining beneficial traits from different individuals. Meanwhile, oxygen levels in the atmosphere continue to rise, creating conditions that can support larger, more active organisms. The combination of available energy, genetic innovation, and environmental opportunity sets the stage for one of the most dramatic transformations in Earth's history. As we move toward the end of this era, the oceans are poised for an explosion of diversity and complexity that will forever change the nature of life on our planet. As we continue our journey through time, the ocean floor suddenly transforms from a realm of simple, soft-bodied creatures into a spectacular battlefield of innovation and adaptation. In what seems like a geological instant, just 25 million years, life diversifies with unprecedented speed and creativity. This is the Cambrian explosion, and it represents one of evolution's greatest revolutions. For the first time in Earth's history, animals begin developing hard shells, protective exoskeletons, and complex internal structures. The evolutionary pressure to survive in a world of increasing predation drives innovation at every level. Creatures that were once defenseless, soft-bodied forms now bristle with spines, hide behind shells, or develop sophisticated escape mechanisms. Trilobites emerge as some of the most successful pioneers of this new world. These arthropods, related to modern insects and crustaceans, scuttle across the seafloor on jointed legs, while their compound eyes, the first sophisticated visual systems on our planet, scan constantly for food and danger. Some trilobites develop elaborate spines and decorative features, while others streamline their bodies for swift movement through the water. The ocean depths witness the rise of Earth's first major predators. 2-meter-long Anomalocaris cruises through the ancient seas like a primordial shark, its flexible grasping arms equipped with sharp spines for capturing prey. Its massive circular mouth, ringed with sharp plates, can crush shells and tear apart the bodies of smaller animals. But the prey animals are not defenseless. They evolve their own innovations in an escalating arms race. Some develop thicker shells, others grow sharp defensive spines, and still others learn to burrow rapidly into seafloor sediments when predators approach. The first true armor appears as some creatures encapsulate themselves in elaborate protective structures that can withstand powerful attacks. The diversity of body plans during this period is staggering. Five-eyed Opabinia probes the muddy seafloor with its bizarre vacuum cleaner-like proboscis, searching for organic particles and small prey. Spiny Hallucigenia walks on 7 pairs of stilted legs, while its back bristles with defensive spikes that can impale any predator foolish enough to attack from above. Wiwaxia resembles a living pincushion, covered in scales and spines arranged in intricate patterns. Some scientists believe it was related to mollusks, others to annelid worms, but its unique combination of features illustrates the experimental nature of early animal evolution. The first complex eyes evolve during this period, ranging from simple light-detecting spots to sophisticated compound visual systems that can form detailed images. The ability to see transforms both hunting and escape strategies, accelerating the pace of evolutionary innovation even further. Filter feeding becomes increasingly sophisticated as animals develop better ways to extract nutrients from seawater. Some create elaborate, fan-like structures to capture passing food particles, while others develop internal filtering systems that can process enormous volumes of water. The first hints of social behavior appear as some animals begin living in colonies or coordinating their activities for mutual benefit. Primitive communication systems evolve, allowing individuals to warn each other of danger or coordinate group feeding activities. While the seas explode with this new animal diversity, the land remains largely barren and lifeless. The continents consist of bare rock, gravel, and sand, with no soil as we understand it today. However, change is beginning at the margins where land meets sea. Simple plants and fungi form the first partnerships in shallow coastal areas. These early collaborations are crucial. The fungi help plants extract nutrients from weathered rock, while the plants provide organic compounds created through photosynthesis. Together, they begin the slow process of transforming barren continental surfaces into environments that can support more complex life. The first true land plants evolve during this period, simple moss-like organisms that can survive brief periods out of water. They remain small and confined to areas where moisture is abundant, but they represent life's first tentative steps toward conquering the terrestrial environment. These pioneering plants begin creating the first primitive soils by breaking down rock through their root systems and contributing organic matter when they die and decompose. This soil formation is a crucial prerequisite for larger, more complex land ecosystems. In the oceans, the diversification continues at breakneck pace. The first coral reefs appear, built not by modern corals, but by primitive organisms with similar ecological functions. These early reefs create complex three-dimensional habitats that support incredible diversity of smaller animals, cephalopods, Ancestors of modern squid and octopuses evolve from simple mollusks and quickly become some of the ocean's most sophisticated predators. Some species develop straight shells over 6 meters long, making them giants in the ancient seas. Others evolve complex tentacles with suction cups for grasping prey, and a few begin experimenting with jet propulsion for rapid movement. But this golden age of marine diversification is not destined to last. Climate systems are inherently unstable, and as we move forward through time, changes in ocean temperature and chemistry begin taking their toll on these thriving ecosystems. Cooling temperatures and falling sea levels stress the diverse marine communities that have flourished during the explosion of life. Many species that evolved in warm, shallow seas find themselves unable to adapt to the changing conditions. The first of Earth's major mass extinctions strikes, eliminating approximately 85% of marine species. The elaborate reef systems collapse, and many of the most spectacular predators and prey animals vanish forever. The trilobites survive but are greatly reduced in diversity, and many of the bizarre experimental body plans disappear from the fossil record. Yet life's resilience shines through even this catastrophe. The survivors quickly diversify to fill the empty ecological niches left by the extinction. Evolution continues its relentless experimentation, setting the stage for the next great chapter in Earth's biological history. In the aftermath of the Great Extinction, marine life slowly rebuilds its diversity. The survivors spread into vacant ecological niches, and new evolutionary experiments begin. The oceans gradually fill once again with a spectacular variety of life forms, but now with different players taking center stage. Fish emerge as the dominant vertebrates in marine environments. Early jawless forms glide through the water like living torpedoes, filtering nutrients through primitive gill structures. But the real revolution comes with the evolution of jaws, one of the most important innovations in vertebrate history. Jawed fish quickly diversify into an incredible array of forms. Some remain small and agile, darting through coral reefs and rocky crevices in pursuit of tiny prey. Others grow to enormous sizes, becoming the apex predators of their time. Heavily armored placoderms patrol the ancient seas with bone-crushing jaws powerful enough to slice through the shells of the largest invertebrates. Among these aquatic innovations, one group of fish develops a capability that will change the course of life on Earth forever. The lobe-finned fish evolve muscular, bone-supported fins that can bear their weight on solid surfaces. Initially, this adaptation allows them to move between pools during dry seasons or escape from predators in shallow water. But some of these fish begin venturing further onto land, using their powerful fins to hunt arthropods along the shoreline or to reach new water bodies. Over generations, their descendants spend increasingly longer periods out of water, and their fins gradually transform into primitive legs. These early amphibians face numerous challenges in their terrestrial lifestyle. They must develop ways to prevent their skin from drying out, support their body weight against gravity, and extract oxygen directly from air rather than water. Most importantly, they must return to water to reproduce, as their eggs cannot survive on dry land. Meanwhile, on the continents themselves, life is undergoing its own revolution. The scattered patches of simple plants that first colonized the shorelines are giving way to increasingly complex terrestrial ecosystems. Plants develop vascular systems, internal plumbing that can transport water and nutrients throughout their bodies, allowing them to grow much taller and venture further inland. The first forests begin to appear as primitive trees stretch toward the sky in competition for sunlight. These early forests are unlike anything in today's world, dominated by giant ferns, towering horsetails, and primitive conifers. The forest floor becomes a complex environment of fallen logs, accumulated leaf litter, and the beginnings of rich organic soil. Arthropods follow the plants onto land, becoming Earth's first terrestrial animals. Early millipedes, centipedes, and primitive arachnids create the first terrestrial food webs, feeding on decaying plant material and hunting each other through the forest undergrowth. These pioneer animals must solve many of the same problems as the early amphibians, preventing water loss, supporting their body weight, and breathing air. As time progresses, the partnership between terrestrial life forms grows more complex and interdependent. Plants evolve more sophisticated root systems that can extract nutrients from soil, while their fallen leaves and branches contribute to soil formation. Fungi develop extensive underground networks that connect different plants and help them share resources. The first flying insects take to the air, initially as a means of escaping ground-based predators, but soon exploiting the three-dimensional environment above the forest canopy. These early aerial pioneers face no competition from vertebrates, allowing them to grow to enormous sizes and diversify rapidly. In the seas, the success of fish continues to drive innovation and diversification. Some species develop sophisticated schooling behaviors, coordinating their movements to confuse predators and increase feeding efficiency. Others become solitary hunters, developing enhanced senses and stealth capabilities. The first sharks appear, initially as small, primitive forms, but quickly evolving into the efficient predators we recognize today. Their cartilaginous skeletons and streamlined bodies make them perfectly adapted for life in the open ocean, while their sensory systems allow them to detect prey from great distances. On land, the forests continue to expand and diversify. The Carboniferous period witnesses the development of vast swamp forests that cover much of the planet's surface. These forests are dominated by enormous ferns that can reach heights of 20 meters, club mosses the size of modern trees, and primitive conifers that tower above the canopy. These extensive forests have a profound impact on Earth's climate. They remove massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis, and when they die, much of their organic material becomes buried in swamp sediments rather than decomposing. This carbon sequestration leads to atmospheric oxygen levels much higher than those of today, possibly reaching 35% compared to our current 21%. In this oxygen-rich atmosphere, terrestrial life explodes to incredible sizes. Dragonflies with wingspans of 70 centimeters patrol the forest airspace like flying predators. These aerial giants have no vertebrate competition, as birds and bats have not yet evolved. On the forest floor, millipedes over 2 meters long crawl through the undergrowth, feeding on the abundant plant material. Giant centipedes hunt smaller arthropods through the leaf litter, while primitive arachnids spin the first webs to capture flying prey. The high oxygen concentration also benefits the early amphibians, allowing them to grow larger and venture further from water. Some species reach the size of modern crocodiles, becoming the first large terrestrial predators. They hunt the giant arthropods and smaller amphibians in an increasingly complex terrestrial ecosystem. But the most important development during this period is the evolution of the amniotic egg. Some descendants of the early amphibians develop eggs with waterproof shells and internal fluid environments that protect the developing embryo. This innovation frees them from the need to return to water for reproduction. These first reptiles quickly diversify into numerous forms. Some remain small and lizard-like, hunting insects and other small prey. Others grow larger and develop more sophisticated predatory strategies. A few even begin experimenting with plant-eating lifestyles, developing the digestive systems necessary to process tough vegetation. As we move forward through time, the continents themselves begin to change dramatically. The slow dance of continental drift brings the major landmasses closer together, eventually forming the supercontinent Pangaea. This massive continental collision creates enormous mountain ranges and dramatically alters global climate patterns. The formation of Pangaea has profound effects on both terrestrial and marine ecosystems. Ocean currents are disrupted, leading to changes in temperature and precipitation patterns worldwide. The vast interior of the supercontinent becomes increasingly arid as it moves away from oceanic moisture sources. Many of the lush swamp forests begin to dry up and disappear, replaced by more arid ecosystems. The giant ferns and club mosses decline, while conifers and other drought-adapted plants become more dominant. This environmental change drives further evolution among land animals, favoring species that can survive in drier conditions. The reptiles prove particularly well adapted to these changing conditions. Their waterproof skin and efficient kidneys allow them to conserve water, while their amniotic eggs can be laid in dry environments. They diversify rapidly, filling ecological niches left vacant by declining amphibian populations. Among the reptiles, a remarkable group called therapsids begins to evolve features that will eventually characterize mammals. Some develop hair-like coverings for insulation, while others experiment with more sophisticated temperature regulation and parental care behaviors. But as we continue through this period of terrestrial diversification, the planet is moving toward one of the most severe crises in its history. Changes in climate and ocean chemistry, possibly triggered by massive volcanic eruptions, begin to stress ecosystems worldwide. The stage is set for the most devastating extinction event in Earth's history, one that will come closer than any other to ending the story of complex life on our planet. As we move deeper into the Permian period, the world continues to change in ways that will prove catastrophic for most life on Earth. The supercontinent Pangaea is now fully formed, creating a massive landmass that stretches from pole to pole. The interior of this continent becomes increasingly dry and harsh as moisture-bearing winds from the oceans cannot penetrate deep into the continental interior. The climate becomes increasingly extreme, with scorching summers and severe winters in the continental interior. Many of the lush forests that characterized earlier periods give way to more arid landscapes dominated by drought-adapted plants. Desert regions expand across vast areas of the supercontinent. Despite these challenging conditions, life continues to diversify and adapt. The therapsids, those mammal-like reptiles, become increasingly sophisticated. Some species develop complex social behaviors and sophisticated temperature regulation systems. Others grow to impressive sizes, becoming the dominant predators in terrestrial ecosystems. Plant-eating reptiles also diversify, developing more efficient digestive systems and defensive strategies. Some grow heavy armor plating, while others develop speed and agility to escape predators. The first truly large terrestrial herbivores appear, creating new ecological relationships as they shape plant communities through their feeding. In the oceans, marine ecosystems continue to thrive despite the changing continental configuration. Coral reefs reach new levels of complexity, supporting diverse communities of fish, cephalopods, and invertebrates. Some marine reptiles begin to exploit oceanic resources, evolving streamlined bodies and powerful swimming capabilities. But beneath this apparent stability, dangerous changes are building. Deep beneath what is now Siberia, enormous volcanic forces are accumulating. Massive magma chambers are forming, fed by plumes of molten rock rising from deep within Earth's mantle. As we continue through time, these volcanic forces finally break through to the surface. The Siberian traps begin erupting in what will become the largest volcanic event in Earth's recorded history. But these are not ordinary volcanic eruptions. They continue almost without pause for hundreds of thousands of years. The scale of these eruptions is almost impossible to comprehend. They release enough lava to cover an area larger than Europe to depths of several kilometers. More importantly, they pump enormous quantities of gases into the atmosphere: carbon dioxide, sulfur compounds, and other chemicals that will dramatically alter Earth's climate and ocean chemistry. Initially, the massive ash clouds from these eruptions block sunlight and cool global temperatures. But as the eruptions continue, the greenhouse gases they release begin to dominate atmospheric chemistry. Global temperatures start rising rapidly, creating a runaway greenhouse effect. The oceans absorb much of this excess carbon dioxide, causing them to become increasingly acidic. Marine organisms that depend on carbonate shells, including many corals, mollusks, and microscopic plankton, find it increasingly difficult to build and maintain their protective structures. Simultaneously, rising temperatures and changing chemistry reduce the ocean's ability to hold dissolved oxygen. Vast areas of the seafloor become oxygen-depleted dead zones where most complex life cannot survive. Hydrogen sulfide, produced by bacteria in these oxygen-free conditions, begins to poison the remaining marine ecosystems. On land, the situation becomes equally dire. Global temperatures rise to levels not seen since Earth's earliest history. The combination of extreme heat, acid rain from volcanic sulfur compounds, and toxic gases creates nearly uninhabitable conditions across much of the planet's surface. The effects cascade through every ecosystem. Plant communities collapse as acid rain damages their leaves, and soil chemistry becomes toxic. Without plants, herbivorous animals starve, and without herbivores, predators face their own extinction crisis. The carefully constructed food webs of millions of years of evolution disintegrate in mere thousands of years. In the oceans, the destruction is even more complete. The acidified, oxygen-depleted waters become toxic to most marine life. Coral reefs dissolve in the acidic conditions. Fish populations crash as their food sources disappear and their habitats become uninhabitable. This is the Great Dying, the Permian-Triassic extinction event that eliminates 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial species. It is the closest that complex life on Earth has ever come to complete extinction. For millions of years after this catastrophe, Earth resembles a nearly lifeless wasteland. The few survivors cling to existence in scattered refuges, caves, deep ocean valleys, or other areas where conditions remain marginally habitable. Many ecosystems are reduced to simple communities of bacteria and the hardiest plants and animals. Recovery begins slowly. The volcanic eruptions finally cease, and atmospheric chemistry gradually returns toward more normal conditions. The oceans slowly lose their acidity as natural buffering processes neutralize the excess acid. Oxygen levels begin to recover as marine ecosystems start to rebuild. The survivors of the Great Dying face a world largely emptied of competitors and predators. These conditions create unprecedented evolutionary opportunities for the few species tough enough to endure the crisis. They begin to diversify rapidly, spreading into vacant ecological niches and experimenting with new ways of life. Among these survivors are small, primitive archosaurs, reptiles that will eventually give rise to crocodiles, dinosaurs, and birds. During the early Triassic recovery, they remain modest creatures, but they possess characteristics that will prove crucial in the changed world: efficient metabolisms, sophisticated sensory systems, and behavioral flexibility. The therapsids also survive in reduced numbers, and some lineages continue evolving toward increasingly mammalian characteristics. These survivors become the ancestors of true mammals, though it will be millions of years before mammals become ecologically significant. In the devastated marine environment, new types of organisms begin to dominate. Different groups of mollusks and arthropods rebuild marine ecosystems, often with body plans and ecological strategies quite different from their extinct predecessors. As recovery continues, the first dinosaurs appear in the fossil record. Initially, they are small, bipedal predators no larger than dogs, sharing the landscape with many other reptiles, early mammals, and surviving therapsids. They show no signs of the dominance they will later achieve. Plant communities also begin to recover and diversify. New types of conifers prove especially successful in the changed climate conditions. Ferns and other primitive plants recolonize areas left barren by the extinction, while new groups of plants evolve to take advantage of emerging ecological opportunities. The pace of recovery accelerates as ecosystems become more complex and stable. Food webs rebuild with new combinations of predators and prey. The interactions between plants and animals become more sophisticated, with new types of pollination relationships and seed dispersal mechanisms. But Earth's recovery from the Great Dying is far from complete when another crisis strikes. Volcanic activity resumes, though not on the same scale as the Siberian traps. These renewed eruptions trigger another significant extinction event at the end of the Triassic period. This second extinction eliminates many of the dinosaurs' remaining competitors, setting the stage for their rise to dominance. The survivors of this event include several dinosaur lineages that quickly diversify to fill the newly vacant ecological niches. As we move forward from these twin catastrophes, we enter a world that will be dominated by some of the most spectacular creatures ever to walk the Earth. In the aftermath of the end Triassic extinction, the world enters a new era of biological innovation and gigantism. The dinosaurs, no longer constrained by competition from other reptile groups, begin their remarkable evolutionary radiation that will dominate terrestrial ecosystems for over 160 million years. The early Jurassic world is warm and humid, with no polar ice caps and sea levels much higher than today. The breakup of Pangaea is creating new ocean basins and altering global climate patterns, generally making conditions more favorable for life. Lush forests of conifers, ferns, and cycads spread across the landscapes, providing abundant resources for herbivorous animals. The dinosaurs waste no time in exploiting these opportunities. Some lineages begin growing larger to access tall vegetation, developing the long necks and massive bodies that will characterize the sauropods. Early forms like Plateosaurus establish the basic body plan, but they are merely previews of the giants to come. Other dinosaur groups pursue different strategies. The theropods, the predatory dinosaurs, diversify into numerous forms, ranging from swift, bird-like hunters to massive apex predators. Each ecological niche that becomes available is quickly filled by a dinosaur species adapted to exploit it. The herbivorous dinosaurs face unique challenges as they grow larger. Processing plant material requires sophisticated digestive systems, and supporting enormous body weight demands revolutionary skeletal adaptations. The sauropods solve these problems through a combination of innovations: long necks that allow them to browse vegetation without moving their massive bodies, specialized teeth for stripping rather than chewing plant material, and enormous digestive systems that use bacterial fermentation to break down tough plant fibers. As we progress through the Jurassic period, these giants reach truly spectacular proportions. Diplodocus stretches over 25 meters from nose to tail, using its whip-like tail for defense and its extraordinarily long neck to reach vegetation that no other animal can access. Brachiosaurus towers over the landscape like a living skyscraper, its front legs longer than its rear legs, allowing it to browse the tops of the tallest trees. But perhaps most impressive of all is Argentinosaurus, which evolves later in our journey through time. This titan reaches lengths of over 35 meters and weights approaching 100 tons, making it one of the largest land animals that has ever lived. Supporting such enormous mass requires bones of incredible thickness and strength, along with sophisticated air sac systems that reduce overall body weight while maintaining structural integrity. The predatory dinosaurs evolve in response to these herbivorous giants. Allosaurus becomes the dominant predator of the Jurassic, reaching lengths of 12 meters and weights of several tons. Its powerful jaws and sharp, serrated teeth are perfectly designed for slicing through flesh, while its long, muscular tail provides balance for rapid pursuit of prey. These predator-prey relationships drive an evolutionary arms race that produces increasingly spectacular adaptations. Some herbivorous dinosaurs develop elaborate defensive strategies: spikes, club tails, and thick armor plating that can deflect even the most determined predators. In the oceans, reptiles have returned to claim dominance from the fish. The seas teem with marine reptiles that rival modern whales in size and sophistication. Long-necked plesiosaurs use 4 flipper-like limbs to fly through the water in pursuit of fish and squid. Some species reach lengths of 15 meters, making them among the largest marine predators of their time. Ichthyosaurs take a different evolutionary path, developing dolphin-like bodies perfectly adapted for high-speed pursuit of fish in open waters. The largest species reach lengths comparable to modern sperm whales, while their eyes, some over 25 centimeters in diameter, represent the largest eyes known from any vertebrate. Above the surface, the skies are dominated by pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight. Early forms are small and bat-like, but as time progresses, some species grow to enormous sizes. Quetzalcoatlus, which appears later in our timeline, achieves wingspans of over 10 meters, larger than small aircraft, and likely spent much of its time soaring on thermal currents like modern vultures. The warm, humid climate of this period supports incredibly lush vegetation. Forests of conifers, ferns, and cycads create complex three-dimensional habitats that support diverse communities of smaller animals. Primitive mammals, still small and largely nocturnal, begin diversifying in the shadows of the dinosaur-dominated ecosystems. These early mammals develop increasingly sophisticated features: better temperature regulation, more complex social behaviors, and improved sensory systems. Some take to the trees, while others become swimmers or develop the ability to glide between branches. Though they remain small, they are preparing for evolutionary opportunities that will come much later in our journey. As we move forward through time, one of the most significant developments in plant evolution occurs: the appearance of flowering plants. These angiosperms initially seem unremarkable, but they carry innovations that will transform terrestrial ecosystems. They develop relationships with insects, trading nectar and pollen for pollination services, creating one of the most important partnerships in the history of life. The evolution of flowers triggers rapid diversification in both plants and insects. Bees, butterflies, and countless other pollinating insects evolve sophisticated relationships with specific plant species. These partnerships drive the evolution of incredible diversity in both groups, creating the complex webs of interdependence that characterize modern ecosystems. Flowering plants also develop more efficient reproduction and dispersal strategies. Some form partnerships with animals for seed dispersal, evolving fruits that attract hungry creatures who then carry seeds to new locations. Others develop advanced timing mechanisms that allow them to coordinate flowering and seed production with favorable environmental conditions. The dinosaurs adapt to these changing plant communities with their own evolutionary innovations. New groups of herbivorous dinosaurs evolve more sophisticated chewing mechanisms to process the new types of vegetation. Duck-billed hadrosaurs develop dental batteries, hundreds of small teeth arranged in grinding surfaces that can efficiently process tough plant material. Predatory dinosaurs reach their ultimate expression during this period. The tyrannosaurs evolve into some of the most formidable land predators in Earth's history. Tyrannosaurus rex, the most famous of these giants, reaches lengths of over 12 meters and weights of several tons. Its massive skull houses teeth up to 20 centimeters long, capable of crushing bone and delivering devastating bite forces. But T-Rex is not alone at the apex of dinosaur evolution. Giganotosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus grow even larger, while Spinosaurus develops a unique semi-aquatic lifestyle, hunting both on land and in rivers. Each of these super predators represents the pinnacle of terrestrial predatory evolution. The herbivorous dinosaurs develop equally impressive defensive strategies. Triceratops evolves a massive skull shield and 3 sharp horns, creating a formidable defensive array that can repel even the largest predators. Ankylosaurus encases itself in bony armor and develops a massive club tail that can deliver bone-breaking blows. As we continue through the age of dinosaurs, the continents continue their slow drift toward modern positions. The Atlantic Ocean widens as North America and Europe separate, while India begins its collision course with Asia. These geological changes alter ocean currents and climate patterns, creating new environmental pressures that drive continued evolution. The late Cretaceous period represents the peak of dinosaur diversity and innovation. Ecosystems around the world teem with an incredible variety of dinosaur species, from tiny feathered forms no larger than modern songbirds to giants that dwarf modern elephants. The complexity of these ecosystems rivals anything in Earth's history. Feathered dinosaurs become increasingly common and sophisticated. What began as simple filaments for insulation evolves into complex branched structures capable of supporting powered flight. The first true birds appear, initially as small, toothed creatures that are clearly dinosaurian in their anatomy, but possess the flight capabilities that will prove crucial to their survival. Some dinosaur lineages experiment with increasingly bird-like characteristics: hollow bones, sophisticated air sac systems, and complex social behaviors, including elaborate courtship displays and nest-building activities. The boundary between dinosaurs and birds becomes increasingly blurred as evolution experiments with different combinations of reptilian and avian features. Meanwhile, the mammals continue their quiet diversification in the ecological shadows. Some species grow slightly larger, reaching the size of modern house cats, while others develop more specialized lifestyles. A few even become day active, competing more directly with small dinosaurs for resources. But as we approach the end of this golden age of dinosaur dominance, changes in global climate and sea level begin creating new stresses. Volcanic activity increases around the world, and gradual cooling begins affecting global ecosystems. Many dinosaur species show signs of declining diversity, possibly indicating that major changes are approaching. The stage is set for one of the most dramatic and sudden transformations in Earth's history, an event that will end the age of giants and open new possibilities for life on our planet. As we move towards the end of the Cretaceous period, the world of dinosaurs seems secure in its dominance. Massive herds of herbivorous species migrate across the continents, followed by equally impressive predators. The ecosystems appear stable and well-established, with complex food webs that have functioned successfully for tens of millions of years. But 66 million years from our starting point, on what appears to be an ordinary day, the sky suddenly lights up with an unnatural brilliance. A mountain-sized asteroid, traveling at cosmic velocity, streaks through Earth's atmosphere and impacts the shallow seas near what will one day be Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The impact releases energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. The asteroid vaporizes instantly, along with vast quantities of rock from the impact site. A fireball expands outward at incredible speed, incinerating everything within hundreds of kilometers. But the immediate destruction is only the beginning. The impact blasts enormous amounts of debris high into the atmosphere, rock fragments, molten droplets, and vaporized material that rise far above the protective atmospheric layers. This debris spreads around the entire globe within hours. As the ejected material falls back to Earth, it heats up through friction with the atmosphere. The entire planet becomes an oven as red-hot debris rains from the sky, igniting wildfires on every continent simultaneously. Forests that have stood for millions of years burst into flame within hours. The combination of impact energy and global wildfires pumps enormous quantities of soot, ash, and vaporized rock into the atmosphere. Within days, the sky darkens as this debris cloud blocks sunlight from reaching Earth's surface. Temperatures plummet as the planet enters what scientists call an impact winter. Photosynthesis stops almost completely as plants are unable to capture enough sunlight for their survival. The complex food webs that have supported dinosaur communities for so long collapse within months. Herbivorous dinosaurs starve as vegetation dies, and without herbivores, the great predators face their own extinction crisis. In the oceans, the situation is equally catastrophic. Marine plankton, the foundation of oceanic food webs, die en masse as sunlight fails to penetrate the debris-laden atmosphere. Fish populations crash, and marine reptiles that have ruled the seas for millions of years find themselves without adequate food sources. The great dinosaurs, magnificently adapted for their world, prove unable to cope with such rapid and extreme environmental change. Their large size, which was an advantage in stable conditions, becomes a liability when food becomes scarce. Their high metabolic requirements cannot be met in the harsh post-impact environment. Within a few thousand years, an instant in geological time, the age of dinosaurs comes to an end. The massive sauropods, the fearsome tyrannosaurs, the armored ankylosaurs, and hundreds of other dinosaur species disappear forever from Earth's fossil record. But not all dinosaurs perish in this catastrophe. Small, feathered species with the ability to fly survive the initial devastation. These birds, with their higher metabolisms and greater mobility, can seek out scattered food sources and shelter in protected environments. They represent the dinosaur's legacy to the post-catastrophe world. Small mammals also survive the impact winter, sheltering in burrows where they can avoid the worst effects of the environmental collapse. Their lower metabolic requirements and ability to survive on limited food sources prove crucial during this crisis. Seeds, nuts, and other stored plant materials provide sustenance during the months when photosynthesis fails. When the debris finally clears and sunlight returns to Earth's surface, these survivors emerge into a radically transformed world. The landscapes that once supported massive dinosaur communities are now largely empty. Ecological niches that were occupied for over 160 million years suddenly stand vacant. The mammals, no longer constrained by dinosaur dominance, begin what will become one of evolution's most spectacular adaptive radiations. Within just a few million years, rapid in geological terms, they diversify into forms that would seem impossible during the age of dinosaurs. Some mammals grow larger, taking advantage of the absence of large dinosaurian herbivores. Early horse ancestors appear, initially no larger than small dogs, but establishing the body plan that will eventually produce the magnificent runners we know today. Primitive elephants begin their evolutionary journey, while early whales take their first steps back into the oceans. The absence of large predatory dinosaurs creates opportunities for mammalian carnivores. Early members of the cat and dog families develop more sophisticated hunting strategies and grow to sizes that would have been impossible while competing with dinosaurs. In the trees, primates begin their remarkable evolutionary journey. These early ancestors of monkeys, apes, and eventually humans develop grasping hands, stereoscopic vision, and enlarged brains that allow them to navigate complex three-dimensional forest environments with unprecedented skill. The warm climate of the early post-dinosaur world supports lush forests from pole to pole. There are no permanent ice caps, and even Antarctica harbors temperate forests. In this greenhouse world, mammals explore every conceivable ecological niche. Some mammals return to the oceans, beginning the evolutionary transformation that will produce whales and dolphins. Early whale ancestors still have 4 legs and spend only part of their time in water, but they establish the trajectory that will lead to some of the most sophisticated marine creatures in Earth's history. Others take to the air, developing the powered flight capabilities that will characterize bats. These aerial mammals exploit the abundant insect populations and create new ecological relationships in 3-dimensional forest environments. The diversification extends to every level of mammalian biology. Some species develop echolocation systems for navigating in darkness or murky water. Others evolve sophisticated communication systems and complex social structures that allow for coordinated group activities. Grass evolves during this period, creating entirely new ecosystem types. Grasslands spread across continental interiors, supporting vast herds of grazing mammals. These open environments favor different evolutionary strategies than forests, leading to the development of fast-running grazers and the predators that hunt them. The arms race between predator and prey drives rapid innovation in both groups. Herbivorous mammals develop better senses, faster running speeds, and sophisticated herd behaviors that provide protection from predators. Carnivorous mammals respond with improved hunting strategies, stealth capabilities, and coordinated pack hunting behaviors. As we continue through this period of mammalian dominance, the continents approach their modern positions. India completes its collision with Asia, thrusting up the Himalayan mountains and altering global weather patterns. The Atlantic Ocean reaches nearly its current width, while the Pacific begins to narrow as the continents continue their slow dance. These geological changes have profound effects on climate and ocean circulation. The warm greenhouse conditions that characterized the early post-dinosaur world gradually give way to cooler, more variable climates. Seasonal differences become more pronounced, and the first significant ice sheets begin forming in polar regions. Mammals adapt to these changing conditions through various strategies. Some species grow larger and develop thicker fur for insulation. Others modify their behavior, developing migration patterns or hibernation capabilities to cope with seasonal variations. The cooling trend accelerates as we move forward through time. Permanent ice sheets establish themselves in Antarctica, locking up vast amounts of water and lowering global sea levels. Ocean currents change as the continental positions alter, creating new patterns of heat distribution around the globe. The first major ice age of the mammalian era begins, dramatically altering ecosystems worldwide. Many tropical and subtropical species are forced to migrate toward the equator, while cold-adapted species expand their ranges from polar regions. In response to these climatic changes, some mammalian lineages undergo remarkable transformations. Elephant ancestors develop thick, woolly coats and curved tusks for surviving in tundra environments. Giant ground sloths and massive armadillos evolve to cope with changing vegetation patterns in South America. During this period of climatic upheaval, our own evolutionary story begins in earnest. In Africa's changing landscapes, early apes begin spending more time on the ground as forests fragment into woodland and grassland mosaics. Bipedal locomotion becomes advantageous in these open environments, leading to the first human ancestors who walk upright on two legs. These early hominins represent just one of many mammalian experiments in adaptation to changing environments, but they carry with them the seeds of something unprecedented in Earth's history, the development of technology and culture that will eventually allow them to reshape the planet itself. As ice ages intensify and become regular features of Earth's climate, mammalian evolution accelerates in response to constantly changing conditions. The mammals that thrive in this challenging environment are those with behavioral flexibility, sophisticated social structures, and the ability to adapt quickly to new circumstances. In Africa's fragmenting forests, our primate ancestors face the same environmental pressures that are reshaping mammalian communities worldwide. As dense woodlands give way to more open savannas, some ape species adapt by spending increasing amounts of time walking upright across the ground between scattered tree groves. This bipedal locomotion initially represents just one of many adaptations to changing habitats, but it sets in motion a cascade of evolutionary changes that will prove transformative. Walking upright frees the hands for carrying objects, manipulating tools, and complex gestural communication. It also changes the mechanics of childbirth and infant development in ways that will prove crucial for brain evolution. The early hominins who master bipedal locomotion spread across the changing African landscape, adapting to diverse environments from woodland edges to open grasslands. They develop increasingly sophisticated tool use, initially simple modifications of stones and sticks, but gradually becoming more purposeful and complex. Brain size begins increasing in response to the cognitive demands of tool-making, social cooperation, and navigation in complex, changing environments. Larger brains require extended periods of infant development, leading to stronger family bonds and more complex social structures. These early human ancestors live in small groups, cooperating to find food, avoid predators, and care for their young. They develop rudimentary communication systems that allow them to coordinate group activities and share information about environmental conditions and resource locations. As climate fluctuations intensify, the selective pressure for behavioral flexibility and problem-solving ability increases. The hominins who can adapt most quickly to changing conditions, finding new food sources, creating better shelter, developing more effective tools, are most likely to survive and reproduce. Around this time, one of the most crucial developments in human evolution occurs: the control of fire. This achievement, which may have happened multiple times in different populations, transforms human capabilities in fundamental ways. Fire provides warmth, protection from predators, the ability to cook food, and light for extending activity into darkness. Cooking food has particularly important consequences for human evolution. It makes nutrients more available from plant foods and allows the consumption of previously inedible items. The improved nutrition and reduced energy requirements for digestion may have contributed to further brain growth. Fire also becomes a tool for environmental modification. Early humans use controlled burns to encourage the growth of preferred plants, drive prey animals, and clear land for easier travel. For the first time in Earth's history, a single species begins deliberately altering entire landscapes to suit its needs. As brain size continues increasing, human ancestors develop more sophisticated communication systems. What begins as gestures and simple vocalizations gradually evolves into complex language capable of conveying abstract concepts, sharing detailed information about the past and future, and coordinating complex group activities. Language transforms human social organization, allowing for the development of cultural traditions that can be passed from generation to generation. Knowledge about tool-making, environmental conditions, and survival strategies accumulates over time, creating an inheritance that supplements genetic evolution. The development of increasingly sophisticated stone tool industries reflects growing cognitive capabilities. Early tools are simple choppers and scrapers, but over time, human ancestors learned to create specialized implements for specific tasks: spear points for hunting, awls for working hides, and increasingly refined cutting tools. Hunting strategies become more sophisticated as groups learn to coordinate their activities over larger areas and longer time periods. They develop techniques for driving herds of large mammals into traps, using fire and tools to take down prey much larger than themselves. The success of these hunting strategies allows human populations to expand into new environments. Groups begin migrating beyond Africa, following game herds and exploring new territories. They adapt to diverse climates and ecosystems, from Mediterranean woodlands to northern European tundra. As human ancestors spread across the globe, they encounter and adapt to Ice Age conditions that would challenge even the most specialized mammals. They develop clothing from animal hides, create sophisticated shelter systems, and learn to store food for long winters. The most recent Ice Age reaches its peak intensity as massive ice sheets cover much of North America and Europe. Sea levels drop by over 100 meters, exposing land bridges between continents and islands. Human populations use these connections to spread even further, reaching Australia and eventually the Americas. During this period of global expansion, human technology and culture become increasingly sophisticated. They develop specialized hunting equipment for different prey and environments, harpoons for marine mammals, spear throwers for terrestrial game, and nets for capturing birds and fish. Artistic expression appears for the first time in human history, with cave paintings that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of animal anatomy and behavior. These images may serve practical purposes, teaching hunting techniques or recording important information, but they also represent the emergence of symbolic thought and aesthetic appreciation. Social organization becomes more complex as groups grow larger and develop specialized roles for different individuals. Some become expert tool makers, others focus on hunting or gathering, and still others may serve as leaders or decision makers for the group. The development of trade relationships allows groups to access resources from distant locations. Stone tools made from materials found hundreds of kilometers away indicate that human populations are developing communication networks that span vast distances. As the Ice Age reaches its peak, human technology enables survival in some of Earth's most challenging environments. They create sophisticated cold-weather clothing, build effective shelters from available materials, and develop food preservation techniques that allow them to survive long winters. The megafauna that dominated Ice Age ecosystems, mammoths, giant ground sloths, cave bears, and saber-toothed cats, face increasing pressure not only from climate change, but also from human hunting. These large animals, which evolved in the absence of human predators, prove vulnerable to coordinated hunting by intelligent, tool-using groups. As we move toward the end of the Ice Age, many of these magnificent creatures disappear from the fossil record. The causes are debated, but human hunting likely played a significant role in their extinction, representing one of the first major environmental impacts of our species. When the ice finally begins its retreat, humans are positioned to take advantage of the changing world. Their behavioral flexibility, technological capabilities, and social organization allow them to adapt quickly to new conditions as forests replace tundra and sea levels rise to flood coastal areas. The end of the Ice Age creates new opportunities, but also new challenges. Many traditional food sources disappear as ecosystems change, forcing human populations to develop new subsistence strategies. In some regions, the response to these challenges leads to one of the most important developments in human history. As the great ice sheets retreat and Earth's climate stabilizes into relatively familiar patterns, human populations around the world face new challenges and opportunities. The megafauna that provided reliable protein sources during the Ice Age have largely disappeared, while changing vegetation patterns alter the availability of wild plant foods. In several regions around the globe, human groups respond to these challenges by developing closer relationships with certain plant species. Instead of simply gathering wild foods, they begin actively tending and protecting valuable plants, gradually modifying them through selective harvesting and replanting. This transition to agriculture begins independently in multiple locations: the Middle East, China, Mesoamerica, the Andes, and several other regions. In each area, local populations domesticate different combinations of plants and animals, creating distinct agricultural systems adapted to local conditions. The development of agriculture represents a fundamental transformation in human society and Earth's ecosystems. For the first time in the planet's history, a single species begins deliberately reshaping landscapes on a massive scale, converting natural ecosystems into simplified systems designed to produce human food. Early farming communities clear forests to create fields, divert rivers for irrigation, and selectively breed plants to make them more productive and easier to harvest. Wild grasses become cereals with larger seeds that don't scatter when ripe. Wild animals become docile livestock that provide reliable sources of meat, milk, and materials. This agricultural revolution makes possible the first permanent settlements of significant size. When food can be produced reliably in one location, people no longer need to follow migrating herds or seasonal resources. Villages grow larger and more complex as agricultural surpluses support individuals who specialize in activities other than food production. Pottery develops to store surplus grain and other foods. Textile production advances as domesticated animals provide wool and other fibers. Metalworking begins as communities develop the expertise and resources needed to extract and process copper, bronze, and eventually iron. The concentration of people in permanent settlements creates new social dynamics. Leadership structures become more formal and hierarchical. Specialized roles emerge: craftspeople, traders, warriors, and religious leaders. Social inequality increases as some individuals accumulate more resources than others. Trade networks develop to move resources between communities with different specializations or access to different materials. These networks spread not only goods, but also ideas, technologies, and cultural practices across increasingly large geographic areas. Writing systems emerge to keep track of complex trade relationships, agricultural production, and social obligations. These early writing systems revolutionize human communication by allowing the storage and transmission of complex information across time and space. As agricultural communities grow and become more sophisticated, they begin having significant impacts on local environments. Forest clearance accelerates as communities need more farmland to support growing populations. Soil erosion increases where vegetation is removed from slopes and hillsides. Some early agricultural societies exhaust their local resources and are forced to abandon settlements or expand into new territories. Others develop more sustainable practices that allow them to maintain productive agriculture for centuries or millennia. The success of agriculture leads to rapid population growth. Human numbers, which may have reached only a few million during the Ice Age, begin increasing exponentially as reliable food production can support much larger populations. Cities emerge as some agricultural settlements grow to unprecedented sizes. These urban centers become focal points for trade, craft production, and political organization. They also create new challenges: sanitation, disease transmission, and social organization become increasingly complex problems. Warfare intensifies as communities compete for prime agricultural lands and trade routes. Military technology advances rapidly, driving innovations in metallurgy, engineering, and organizational strategies. Professional armies replace the part-time warriors of smaller communities. Religious and philosophical systems become more sophisticated as literate societies develop complex explanations for natural phenomena and human behavior. Monumental architecture reflects both religious beliefs and the organizational capabilities of agricultural societies. Long-distance trade expands dramatically as communities develop the resources and organizational capacity to support merchant expeditions. Goods, ideas, and technologies spread across entire continents, accelerating the pace of cultural and technological change. The domestication of horses revolutionizes transportation and warfare, allowing rapid communication across vast distances and enabling new forms of military tactics. Similarly, the development of sailing ships opens oceanic trade routes and makes possible the exploration and colonization of distant lands. As agricultural societies become more sophisticated, they begin developing scientific understanding of natural phenomena. Astronomy advances as communities need accurate calendars for agricultural planning. Mathematics develops to handle complex trade calculations and engineering projects. The invention of the printing press accelerates the spread of knowledge and ideas. Information that once took years to copy by hand can now be reproduced quickly and distributed widely, leading to rapid advances in science, technology, and cultural development. Exploration expands human knowledge of Earth's geography and biodiversity. Circumnavigation of the globe proves Earth's spherical shape and true size. The discovery of new continents leads to massive population movements and cultural exchanges, though often with devastating consequences for indigenous populations. The scientific revolution begins as systematic observation and experimentation replace traditional explanations for natural phenomena. This new approach to understanding the natural world leads to rapid advances in physics, chemistry, biology, and other fields. Steam engines harness the power of fossil fuels for the first time, launching the Industrial Revolution. Machines powered by coal begin replacing human and animal labor, dramatically increasing productivity while also beginning to release stored carbon back into the atmosphere. The pace of change accelerates exponentially. Transportation systems develop from horse-drawn vehicles to railways to automobiles and aircraft. Communication evolves from messengers to telegraph to telephone to radio and beyond. Human population explodes from millions to billions as medical advances reduce mortality rates, while agricultural and industrial development can support much larger numbers of people. Cities grow to sizes that would have been unimaginable to earlier generations. The harnessing of electricity transforms daily life and industrial production. Electric power enables new manufacturing processes, lighting systems, and communication technologies that further accelerate the pace of technological change. Human impact on Earth's environment intensifies dramatically during industrialization. Forest clearance accelerates to provide timber and agricultural land. Mining operations extract enormous quantities of minerals and fossil fuels. Rivers and atmospheres become polluted with industrial waste. The 20th century witnesses unprecedented technological achievements. Humans develop the ability to fly, then to travel to space. Communication becomes instantaneous across global distances. Computing power grows exponentially, enabling new forms of information processing and analysis. Nuclear technology is developed, providing both new energy sources and unprecedentedly destructive weapons. The atomic age demonstrates humanity's growing power to reshape matter and energy at the most fundamental levels. Medical advances dramatically extend human lifespan and reduce suffering from diseases that plagued earlier generations. However, these successes also contribute to continued population growth and increased resource consumption. The Green Revolution applies scientific methods to agriculture, dramatically increasing crop yields through improved plant varieties, fertilizers, and pesticides. This technological approach to food production enables continued population growth, but also increases agriculture's environmental impact. Space exploration begins as humans develop the technology to leave Earth's atmosphere. The view of Earth from space provides new perspectives on the planet's finite size and interconnected systems, helping to inspire environmental awareness. Computing technology advances from room-sized machines to personal devices more powerful than the supercomputers of previous decades. Information processing capabilities grow exponentially, enabling new forms of communication, research, and social organization. The Internet connects human populations globally, creating unprecedented opportunities for information sharing, collaboration, and cultural exchange. Knowledge that once took years to access can now be retrieved instantly from anywhere in the world. As we approach the present moment in our journey through time, humans have become a geological force comparable to volcanoes and glaciers in their ability to reshape Earth's surface and atmosphere. They move more rock and soil than all natural erosion processes combined. Climate change emerges as a major challenge as the accumulated effects of fossil fuel use begin altering global temperature and weather patterns. The speed of this change far exceeds anything in human history and challenges the adaptability of many natural systems. Biodiversity loss accelerates as human activities destroy habitats and alter ecosystems faster than species can adapt. The current rate of extinction is estimated to be hundreds or thousands of times higher than natural background rates. Yet human technological capabilities also create potential solutions to these challenges. Renewable energy technologies harness the power of sun, wind, and water without releasing stored carbon. Advanced materials and manufacturing processes enable more efficient use of resources. Global communication systems enable unprecedented cooperation in addressing planetary challenges. Scientific understanding of Earth's systems reaches levels of sophistication that would have seemed impossible to earlier generations. As our journey through Earth's timeline reaches the present moment, the future remains unwritten. Human decisions in the coming decades will determine whether the next chapters of Earth's story feature continued flourishing of life's diversity or another of the dramatic turning points that have periodically reshaped our planet's biosphere. Whatever challenges lie ahead, the timeline of Earth demonstrates that change is the only constant, and that life possesses an extraordinary capacity for finding new ways to thrive in changing conditions. The story that began with cosmic dust and grew into the magnificent diversity of life we see today continues to unfold, with new chapters being written by every species, every ecosystem, and every human decision.